Hello and welcome to the Author's Lounge. My name is Paulette Henson. I think I look like I'm frozen. Am I frozen? Okay. Hello and welcome to the Author's Lounge. My name is Paulette Henson. How's everybody doing? I am so excited today. I have a guest author on the show, and she was actually one of our poets on the Poets Lounge last Friday. And so I'm super excited to welcome to the stage Miss Charisse Zeroonian. Charisse, welcome. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Welcome, welcome. So happy to have you back.
Thank you.
Thanks again for your wonderful poetry on
Mhm.
the Poets Lounge last Friday. That was awesome. But today we're going to talk about your book and just
Mhm.
your incredible journey as a screenwriter and an author and a poet. So go ahead and tell our audience about who you are and your journey.
Sure. Hi everybody. As Paulette said, I am an author. I have the book that we're going to talk about today. It's a compilation of a bunch of different short stories that I've had that were previously, most of them were previously published in other places, like the Armenian Weekly, which is a newspaper that it's read all over the world, but their headquarters are in Massachusetts. And it's the stories are in English. They're not in Armenian, but they may have some like Armenian words in there. Not all of them are Armenian themed, but most of them are. I've had poems published on different platforms, different magazines. One of them was on NPR when I was younger. It
Uh-huh.
was it was a poem that was, so there's an NPR station near me. CAI, they dropped the W. I don't know, WCAI, Cape and Islands. They just go by CAI now. They're the NPR station for the Cape, for Cape Cod. And yeah, they have something called, I don't know if they still do it, but years ago, at least, they had something called Poetry Sunday, which people who were local people from Massachusetts could send their poetry in, and if accepted, they would come and get to read it. And have it recorded so that it would be broadcast as part of the Poetry Sunday segment. And my poem was one of those. It was something I wrote years ago in writing class.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so there's that. I also am a filmmaker and screenwriter. I make my own films. Um, the most recent thing that I'm working on is an original TV series that's available on Amazon Prime. We only have 2 episodes up there now, but the third is almost done. We finished. I was just right before I came on here, I was putting the finishing touches on it in editing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that'll be up soon. Um, I've also made some other films, and I have done, my goodness, what else? I'm in grad school right now for creative writing and writing for stage and screen
Yes.
specifically. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I'm actually supposed to go back tomorrow for orientation, so I'm pumped for that.
Yeah.
Yay! And I do all kinds of stuff with that. I am right now. I'm for school. I'm writing a lot of things that I hope to shoot later. And yeah.
Nice. So tell me about your the name of your show on Amazon and
Mhm.
how can I find it? So because I love to see it.
Sure. So it's called One Plus One is Two. And I'm sure there are probably a lot of things with that title. So you're probably going to put my name next to it when you search for it. So you
Okay.
can say like one plus one is two. And by the way, it's written out in words because when I tell people one plus one is two, a lot of times they write out like the actual equation, like with the numbers. I'm like, no, you won't find it that way. You probably find a lot of math textbooks. But I wrote, so one plus one is two, just with the words written out, and you can put my name next to it, and you might find it. The thumbnail should be, nowadays when I click on it, it doesn't like show the thumbnail like it used to, but if it shows for you, it should be a woman with short gray hair. That's Mary. She's our main, she plays our main character on the show. So that's yes, one of the actresses for the show. And
Nice.
yeah, and there is like I said, there are 2 episodes, and the show is based off of a stage play that I wrote when I was younger.
Mhm.
And that play takes place in the 1960s, and but the show takes place I wrote like a lot of the scripts in 2018. Of course I had to change them because of like COVID stuff, but that's
Yeah.
where I decided the show would take place. And there's a lot of flashbacks like the 60s and the 70s and even the 50s from when the main character was a teenager.
Mhm.
The reason for that is because it's really expensive to just shoot the whole thing in like old period piece. So yeah.
Yes. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, super proud of you. And tell us about your book, Floater.
Sure. So Floater is like I said, a compilation of short stories that I've written over the years. Some of them were previously published, and some of them were not published anywhere at all. So I just put them in the book. And so the title is called Floater because for though I'm not sure if it's just for people just use this term when talking about the field of education. I think it could apply to other fields too. But I know that from my years of working with kids a lot and like working in schools, when there's a teacher who isn't really assigned to a particular group or a class and
Mhm.
just kind of walks around the building and
Right.
is like, hey, how's it going? And make sure the kids are okay. That's usually called a floater, like they're floated to
Okay.
different floors. And I
Got
kind
it.
of yeah, and I kind of thought of that because I don't really like coming up with titles. Is I think the worst part of like writing for me. I'm just not very good at it. But I chose this because a common theme of a lot of these stories, no matter what background the characters come from, no matter who they are, the common
Mhm.
theme is that every main character in the story seems to feel like existentially they're just kind of aimlessly floating around some different
Mhm.
planes of life, and they haven't really figured out where they belong, let's say in a community or within a family system, or gosh, within just what people expect them to be as a whole. So that's the
Mhm.
common theme for all of them, is people who are looking for somewhere to belong, people who are just not sure their sense of self. Insecurity is a huge part of every single story, and there are all these different characters that embody that in some way.
Wow. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing. And I like how you describe, people like floating around because that's life. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
are doing that. They're
Yep.
trying to find themselves. And so then they can hopefully identify with that and
Mm-hmm.
find that direction that they need, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
That is amazing. And so, tell us how you got started with your writing. I remember last week on the other show on the Poets Lounge, you talked about writing as a child. So
Yeah.
tell our audience about your experience growing up and really developing your writing style.
Absolutely. So I even at so when I was a kid, I thought I think I was probably always wired for anything that had to do with literacy. Like I
Mhm.
read pretty early. I know that when I was in, like, I remember one fond memory I have is when I was in preschool, I used to read to my friends. Like they would like gather around me and I would just read to them, and I was like, awesome. Like I felt so
Right.
cool. I would
Yeah.
like and even before I could write, right, I would like kind of come up with like stories, like amuse myself in my head, just random stuff, like if I
Yes.
was bored. And I got to school, when I got to first grade, it was my teacher who I had a weird relationship with this teacher. I mean, it was kind of tumultuous in a way because I was like always in trouble and stuff. But I wonder if part of that was because I think she probably was extra hard on me because she thought that I had potential.
Yes.
And so one day in this teacher's class, and I remember it because so it was Thanksgiving. It was Thanksgiving of 2002. I wasn't in school, but I just preface it. I should clarify that. No, we were just the school part comes later, but this is what really I think got me started. It was There's a siren in the background. I hope you guys can't hear that. All right,
It's
but
okay.
yeah.
Life happens.
Yeah. So there's a huge snowstorm in Boston, and that's where I am, guys, in case
Yeah.
I didn't say it. And so I decided to. It was a fun Thanksgiving for that reason. I got to go out sledding with my neighbors and all that. It was definitely a memorable one for that reason, just because of the scope of the blizzard and how
Yes.
huge it was. So then when we returned to school, like the following week, we had to pick something to write about for a writing class, and I wrote about that. I wrote about helping my dad make stuffing, and then I wrote about going to sled with my neighbors and all that. And I just thought, I was just writing, and I didn't think much of it. And then my teacher asked me to come talk to her, and I thought, oh my God, is this about whatever I did last Tuesday? I was like, oh no, I'm finally getting found out. And so I want to go talk to her, and she goes, "We're gonna go to the principal's office." And I was like, ah! I'm like, I don't know what this is about. I'm like,
Right.
oh my God, she really I must have, she knows all the stuff I did. And she goes, "No, you're not in trouble. We're gonna go to the principal's office because of the story that you wrote. I think your writing is so good that I want to call your mother so that you can read it to her on the phone." I was like,
Wow.
okay, sure. So we went to the principal's office, and then I called my mom, and I read the story to her, and I was kind of confused at the time. I didn't really think it was worth reading to my mom, but I
Mhm.
guess she thought that it was. And apparently, she told my mom um, around, I don't know if it was like when I was in first grade or maybe when I was still in elementary school, but later she got a hold of my mom somehow and said to her that when Charisse writes her first book, she should send a copy to me. I never got to do that because I found out that the teacher sadly passed away a few
Mhm.
years ago.
Mhm.
And before, I mean, I didn't know she had passed away until recently because it happened in 2020. But and I just looked her up out of curiosity because I thought, hey, I really maybe would like to send her a copy of the book, but I kind of regret not doing that. Not that I would have known how to track her down, but
Yeah.
it would
Right.
have been nice to do that because I kind
Yeah.
of feel like I owe it to her in a way.
Yes.
And then I
Yes. I
continue.
get it. I get it.
Hmm.
But you know what? You're fulfilling the vision that she had for you. And
Hmm.
so, unfortunately, she didn't get that copy, but
Hmm.
you're doing great works. You really are. Uh, I love young people today. My youngest son is, I want to say, about your age, and I just see genius mentality in people around your age group where you know what you want and you are diligent in reaching your goals. And I think that that's awesome, because in the age of video games and all of this
Yes.
electronics going on, finding your niche, to facilitate your career and making that career something that you own and something that you enjoy. That is key.
Absolutely.
I feel that this is you. This is your life. This is what you're all about, and you're gonna do exceedingly well because look at your smile. You love it,
I
and so
do.
that that's one of the beauties of tapping into your vision and your strengths and what you can do with that. And so I'm super proud of you. So tell our audience where they can get your book Floater.
Mm-hmm. Sure. They can get it on Amazon. And if they are around if they're in Rhode Island or Florida or in the Cape Cod area, they can get the books at Books and Books in Key West, Florida. They can get it at Island Books in, I believe, I don't want to mess up, I believe it's Middletown, Rhode Island.
Okay.
I'll check that. We can look it up, Island Books somewhere in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And sorry, Island Books, I forgot if they're watching. And Isaiah Thomas used books in, I believe it's
Okay.
Falmouth, Mass, on the Cape. I'm working on sending it to other stores as well. There's a bookstore in Mississippi where it's available. Oh, Violet Valley Books in Mississippi.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm working on sending it to more places.
Yeah, so I love your marketing strategy. And so share with our audience because what I've noticed with authors is that Amazon, of course, they are the number one marketplace in the world. And when it comes to books, it's like you're in a big ocean
Yeah.
of authors. And so, what I've been doing is I'm navigating webinars to show authors how to go through that process. So, with what you're doing, I love that you are going and seeking out
Yes.
bookstores. And so, what is that process? Tell our audience, like, what's your experience with that? You contact the bookstore, and what happens next?
Sure. And before I say that, I forgot one more bookstore. It's available in California at Abril Books, Abril. It's a bookstore that specializes in things by Armenian authors and stuff. It's
Oh, nice,
in, yes,
nice.
it's in, I think, Fresno or Glendale, one of those two, but it's there.
Okay,
And yep,
awesome.
yeah.
Yay. Wow. Okay, so
And
so tell us about how what triggered you into saying, okay, I'm gonna call these bookstores and tell us that story.
sure. Sorry, I'm just moving around because my
That's okay.
face is totally in the dark, the sun. Yeah. So I just look up things like I was focusing on bookstores that are smaller because like obviously contacting a Barnes and Noble or something, I'd probably need like
Yeah.
an agent or something like that. And I don't have one. So
Right.
what I do is I just seek out places where I think I'm more likely to talk to someone directly. So I look up things like top 10 used and rare bookstores in the
Yes.
country. And then it will show me a whole list. And
Right.
then I will, go to the website and I will fill out the contact us form or I'll email them.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, hi, my name is Charisse Zeroonian. I'm a writer and filmmaker from the Boston area. I'd like to inquire about, I usually say donating a copy of my book. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because I feel like when you say that, they're more likely to be receptive than if you're just like,
Right.
"Hey, I'm just gonna send you my book like by surprise." They would get like
Right.
creeped out by that, or um,
Right.
so I think when you frame it like I'm gonna donate, I was wondering if you would like to accept my book like almost as a gift. Um,
Yes.
they definitely like that, and there's no stipulations in terms of like buying your books or whatever legal stuff is affiliated with that
Right.
or whatever. There's
Right.
none of that. You're just
Right.
giving it as a gift. So, and a lot of them say, yeah, absolutely, send it over to this address. And then I do that. And it seems to work just fine. The only downside is having to buy my own book. I mean, I get the royalties back, of course,
Right.
because it's my
Right.
book, but it's still it's a great way to do it. And it actually, when I gave the book to Abril Books, it led to a book reviewer walking in and just checking out the new stuff that they had on display and them reading my book and reviewing it, and they wrote a really nice review. So I'm glad that I
Right.
did that, because you never know who's going to walk into the store and look at
That's
it.
right.
Mhm.
That's right. And I think that's great because you have to. Am I frozen?
No,
Hello.
not
You
anymore.
have to. You have to utilize every avenue. Like I tell people, not just bookstores, hotels, and
Mm-hmm.
any place that has a gift shop, you know,
Yeah.
train stations,
Mm-hmm.
airports, all of those places where people are sitting and waiting
Yeah.
for a flight. They have
Mhm.
hours to spend. Those are good ways to promote your book. And
Mhm.
like you said, you may have to purchase some author copies to distribute, but
Mhm.
what you get out of it, you just never know. Like you said, you got a really good book review. And
Mhm.
I'm sure a follower that's going to follow your work and support you as well. And so I think that that's awesome. I love your energy. And I know you're going to keep writing because that is who you are.
Mhm.
And I'd love for you to come back on the show and just keep us updated on, what you're doing and your new projects because you are an inspiration to our audience. I mean, we don't know who's going to watch this show and who's sitting, on the fence about, their writing journey, how they're going to get started and all of that. So I appreciate you so, so much. So are there any closing words that you'd like to leave before we close today?
Closing words. Well, I guess you just triggered something that I thought would be a great way to close the show. You said you
Okay.
never know. Yeah, you never know who's gonna see the show. You said someone maybe on the fence about starting to write. So my advice to people who are on the fence is to just do it, just to come to the side of the fence because honestly, bad. Even if you think it's bad art is better than no art.
That's right.
100% because
Wow.
somebody is going to think it's good. So
Yes.
let's just do it.
I
Yeah.
love that. I
Yeah.
love it. Well, thank you, Charisse, so much for participating today on the Author's Lounge. Like I said, you're welcome to come back anytime.
Thank you.
And we will definitely see you on the Poets Lounge, everyone. We have our Poets Lounge that kicked off. Our premiere was last Friday, and it was amazing. People are still watching. And so please look out for Charisse on the Poets Lounge and pick up her book, Floater. It is available on Amazon as well as the other locations that she mentioned. She's also on Facebook and Instagram if you'd like to follow her work, as well as Amazon Prime. She's got a couple of movies out. So, Cherie, so proud of you. Thank you again for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's great.
Okay, guys, so we're going to shut off today and we'll see you next time on the Authors Lounge. Bye. Okay, let's see if we can end this. There we go.